Hey everybody, Who's Your Jedi here with another review for you. This time talking episode 18 of The Flash called All-Star Team-Up. Now this is of course a reference to the DC comic that called All-Star Team-Up, which would frequently feature a rotating series of heroes teaming up with each other for various adventures. And of course this issue, as we might say, has our heroes being the Atom and of course the Flash. And all in all, it's not a bad episode. It's just unfortunate that the heroes teaming up against Bug-Eyed Bandit is actually kind of the least interesting part of what's all going on. So let's just kind of get right into things and talk about the characters. And let's start small. Nothing huge to say about Caitlin this episode. Again, just nice to see her and Felicity talking and being good gal pals. That's always nice. Now Cisco this episode, he hits it off immediately with Ray Palmer, so much so that Cisco has a little brief appearance in tonight's episode of Arrow, which I just finished watching a little while ago, as you might be able to tell by the clock behind me. I live in the Central Time Zone, just for reference. And yeah, they hit it off really well, and that's cool. No idea what's going on with the whole Cisco remembering himself being killed in the alternate timeline by Reverse Flash. I mean, I got nothing. All I can kind of think is that sort of vibrational frequencies and alternate realities have gone hand in hand before in the DC universe, and of course, we've seen Barry popping around between timelines. Cisco's counterpart in the comic is Vibe. I kind of feel like I'm half pulling stuff out my ass here. I really just have no idea what's going on there. But yeah. So let's talk about what's going on with the other folks. This episode, not a good one for Iris. I mean, I'm watching that last night's episode, and I'm sitting there during that watching that whole incredibly horrible scene where everybody's having dinner. I don't mean it's badly acted or badly written or anything. It's just like, this is the most terrible and awkward scene ever. I think they even said something along like most awkward dinner ever in the episode. And all I can just see when I'm listening to Iris go on and deliberately start giving an Eddie a hard time in front of other people is just like, I literally said to the TV, Iris, stop being a bitch. Because when you're going out of your way to take digs at your significant other in front of other people just to kind of score points, I mean, that's really crap behavior. Seriously. And yeah, I do like the conversation they have at the end. I mean, that's still not exactly Iris behaving in what I would consider a reasonable way, but at least she's acting more mature than when they're at dinner. But here's the thing, Eddie's a cop, and both legally and ethically, he's going to have all kinds of stuff that he runs across on the job that he can't talk about. Now sure, cops often share details of stuff with their spouses and significant others and close friends that it's understood, hey, I shouldn't, keep this to yourself. It's off the record. I mean, that's just sort of par for the course in that sort of job. But, Iris, a reporter who you would think understands the idea of confidential sources, that can't respect, I know something and I can't tell it to you. Iris, why the hell can you not respect this? I mean, again, you're a reporter. You deal with similar situations. Now, granted, it's getting to the point where whatever it is Eddie's keeping from her is starting to bleed over into their relationship. And, Eddie kind of probably should say something along the lines of like, Iris, there's something that I would love to tell you, but it's not my secret to tell. That at least might get her to see reason a little bit better. But in any case, Iris is the one being unreasonable here. So let's see, what else? Oh yeah, speaking of Eddie, as much fun as that scene with him and Joe and Barry was at the beginning with them sort of teaming up to take down bad guys, first of all, should you be letting the criminals see the Flash be so buddy-buddy with two cops? Especially since vigilantism is, illegal. And did I hear it right? Did Joe actually call Barry by his name in front of one of the criminals? And I mean, again, it's just like these criminals are going to talk to lawyers. How in the world are they not going to tell them these cops were working with the Flash? I mean, it looks. I'm sorry. I mean, I know you have to sort of take things with a grain of salt on these shows, but that's just a little bit too much. And as long as I'm nitpicking, perhaps unnecessarily, that is not how a defibrillator should be used. Okay, I guess I have a little bit of a bug up my ass on this one, just because I had to get some Red Cross training back in January for job purposes, right? And part of the training was showing you how to use a defibrillator. And not to bore you with a bunch of medical stuff, but yeah, that's really not how you should be doing things. Usually if somebody's heart is stopped, you should also be administering rescue breaths. And never mind the fact that if your heart you're in so bad shape that you need something to jumpstart your heart, you're not going to get back up immediately and just kind of go la di da da back on about your merry way. You're probably going to need to be hauled off to the hospital because your heart not beating is kind of serious. Oh boy. So anyway, let's kind of move on. Let's keep talking about our heroes. Now, the big journey for Barry this episode isn't really dealing with Bug-Eyed Bandit. It's realizing, yeah, I totally need to clue Caitlin and Cisco in on what's going on. And what's really nice about the whole situation is both he and Joe make valid points. But, at the end of the day, Joe's view prevails, and it rightly should. Now, Felicity, again, nothing really huge to say about her, with one major exception. Like when she says to Barry when they're on, I think pretty sure it was at the restaurant, like, is this about me telling Ray your secret? Okay, so stop and think about what this means for a moment. It means that Felicity went and told Ray who the Flash was without seeing if it was okay with Barry first. What in the loving hell, Felicity? I mean, seriously, is it that hard to call up Barry and say, Barry, I have a question for you? I mean, granted, they sort of trade things off by, letting them find out who the Atom is, but people barely know that the Atom even exists. I mean, Quentin did mention him as apparently having been sighted running around the city, but yeah. And it was really fun seeing Felicity try and see who was the better hacker in terms of getting into fighting Bug-Eyed Bandit. And I love that thing where she goes, "I've never had a nemesis before. I kind of like it." So I totally do dig that. So since we just mentioned her, let's briefly talk about Bug-Eyed Bandit, and then we'll talk about Ray. Brie Larvin. Actually, Bug-Eyed Bandit in the comics is an enemy of the Atom, and there he's a male character with I can't remember what his given name is, but it also starts with a B, like Brendan or something. They just sort of did a gender switch on this, so that's fine. And I'm certainly not going to complain about Emily Kinney. She played Beth was actually one of my favorite characters on Walking Dead, and I was very sorry to see her leave the show. But it was also nice to see her pop up here on the Flash, kind of saying, hey, I might not be on Walking Dead anymore, but I'm not going to give up acting, and I'm certainly not going to give up on the genre fans who have done so much for me. And while as a whole, Bree is a rather weakly written character, Kitty is clearly having quite a bit of fun, especially with that costume and the crazy lair that she gets to hang out in. I mean, she's really making the most of what she has to work with. And in all fairness, the Bug-Eyed Bandit only really gets to talk at any great length about twice the entire episode. But again, points to Emily Kinney for making the most of what she was given. And of course, there's this sort of question, is Bug-Eyed Bandit working for Hive? I mean, man, I mean, bees, hives, and she even refers to herself as "I'm the queen bee of this hive." Queen Bee is a villain associated with Hive in the comics. So, I mean, I don't think that she is meant to be the character Queen Bee. It's quite clearly stated her character is intended to be the Bug-Eyed Bandit. Now, next season on Arrow, it's basically been confirmed that Hive are going to be the bad guys. I wouldn't surprise me if we do see a Queen Bee character, but I think it'll be a new actress doing that. But still, it would be very fun to see Hive spring Bree from prison so that Felicity can face off with her again. And, certainly not going to complain about if they manage to bring Emily Kinney back for to take on the Arrow. This episode also lets us see Tina McGee again. Now, this is really cool because, obviously things are going to go badly with Harrison Wells. Cisco and Caitlin are probably going to be looking for new jobs soon, assuming they survive. So Tina McGee would be a really great person to sort of step in there and sort of fill the role of rich science person who sort of bankrolls all of this. And, after everything that's happened, she certainly does have reason to be grateful to the Flash. And, John Wesley Shipp playing Barry's dad. The lady that plays Tina McGee also coming in from the 90s Flash TV show. I mean, it's beautiful synergy. Beautiful synergy. Now, one thing, though, that before I move on to talking about Ray, I do have kind of a complaint about Barry and the way he was dealing with these bees. One, Barry seems to have forgotten that he can vibrate through matter, so these bees really shouldn't have been any sort of threat to him at all. And two, even if he somehow forgets that he can do that, I mean, it is a new power, why not just, use a book, or, God, I forgot my iPad was still plugged in, oh well, or something to sort of push the bees out of the way and then kind of walk through the little opening you would have made. I mean, there's no damn reason these bees should have been any real threat to the Flash. It's kind of ridiculous. Okay, so Ray this episode. Well, it's a bird, it's a plane, and you even hear what sound like a few cues from the John Williams Superman music. And it's no coincidence that the Atom's colors have been red and blue for a long, long time, but still, that Brandon Routh having played Superman previously, I mean, they're sort of playing it a little bit as if if ever, Superman actually shows up in the CW universe, or is at least alluded to in some way. I mean, who knows exactly how they're going to handle things over on the Supergirl show. Again, better not to think about it too awful much. He's probably the closest thing that the CW universe has to Superman, albeit one that's an awful lot like Iron Man. But in any case, that was very fun. It's a nice mythology gag. And I've already talked about how he bounces off very well against Cisco. I mean, those two guys become buds really quick. Again, Ray Palmer's sort of probably in the background, sort of bankrolling things. Maybe he steps in and buys Star Labs, and who knows, whatever. That's another thing that we can kind of possibly put on the table for how things might go in season 2. It's certainly interesting seeing him interact with Harrison Wells, and I liked how Harrison Wells was sort of getting that little oh yeah, even I'm impressed, and then Cisco goes oh, and he's never impressed. You kind of have to wonder, well, what does Harrison Wells know about Ray's ultimate destiny? I mean, the Atom definitely does have some interesting things in his future, especially as we keep hearing more and more about shrinking. Let me see. Anything else that I needed to talk about this episode? Nope. I mean, that basically kind of covers it. Again, the stuff with Bug-Eyed Bandit was definitely on the weak side, but the interplay between the characters, them bouncing off of each other, pretty darn good stuff. So, guys, with that, I'm going to call it here. As always, please comment, rate, and subscribe, and of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Hoosier Jedi. Until next time, take care and have a good one.